Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you don't know me, my name is Zoe. I'm 22 and I live in Sydney, Australia. And today I thought I'd do a little sit down video and chat about obviously the things I learned in therapy. I just thought I'd overshare even more than I already do. That's basically the whole premise of this video. And if it helps out anyone to hear and also to normalize therapy, and yeah, that's my intention today. So I started going to therapy. Over the last 7 years, I've seen about 4 to 5, maybe even 6. Yes, 6 different therapists, because some people leave, some people don't work out in the right time. And I just found myself sort of doing a year or so with someone and then having a break and then going back to seeing someone else. It's been very informative. It's taught me a lot about myself. I'm basically a salesperson at this point, and I'm trying to sell you therapy and why you need it. Like, kinda, but like not really, but kinda, yeah. Anyway, so I started going to therapy when I was in grade 9. I was 14, 15. I wasn't really going to school. Can't really remember why. I've kind of blocked it all out, to be honest. And then my parents got divorced, so I was kind of going through a lot at the time. Basically, the goal was to get me to be liking high school again and not like I was like, what am I going to do for the next 3-4 years being stuck in this place? So high school is kind of like that. School in general is kind of like that. If you're not enjoying it, it sucks because you're there and there's not too many options for you to, you can leave in year 10 and then do a different pathway, but I wasn't wanting to do anything like that. So I was stuck. So we had to figure out ways to get me to enjoy school. So thank you to all my therapists along the way who helped with that process. I also saw there's a free counseling service for young people near me. So she wasn't a registered psychologist, but she was a counselor, and it was free. And I'm not gonna lie, she's the best therapist, mentor, counselor that I've ever had. And I look back on my time with her because I had to leave. It was a kids service, so I had to leave once I turned 18. I look back and I'm like, oh my God, she was just the best. You'd go, they'd offer you a coffee or a tea or a water. Yeah, she was just absolutely amazing. So you form this bond and you go and you get to just sort of, someone else can carry the load almost, which might sound slightly strange or unhealthy, but that's kind of how my mind went. I was like, I can go and I can tell this person about it and she can experience it with me and either validate it or reassure me about it. And whilst talking to friends is amazing, these people literally are paid to do this. So they are objective, they want to give you advice, they want to help, they want to listen, and they're amazing people. Anyway, currently I'm at a point where I do not need one, so we're in a position to chat about it. So I have a couple of tips for you, and I'm going to kind of let it go fluidly and see how I go. I've got a couple rough points written down, and if I stray from that, I'll let you know. Number 1, thoughts aren't facts. And this is for all our overthinkers. I used to use this app that would allow me to put in a thought, and it would allow me to recognize the thinking pattern, the thinking technique that was. For example, there's all or nothing thinking, there's magnifying thinking, and then I would put in like my distress level, I would identify that thinking pattern, and then I would write like an alternative perspective. I'd say, well, like almost playing devil's advocate to yourself. Have you thought about maybe that won't happen? Have you thought about maybe this is a different possibility that could happen? Maybe you won't fail the test. Maybe you will have a good chat with someone and it won't be awkward. So you kind of play the devil's advocate with yourself, and then you put your distress level. And I would just write like paragraphs. I'd just like spew everything, and even that would decrease my stress level. Where I was going with that was thoughts aren't facts. So when we have a thought that's maybe self-deprecating or negative towards ourselves, you kind of need to try and have the self-awareness to see that is not a fact. And even if you can't see that, just remember, keep reminding yourself thoughts aren't facts, and that will build the neural pathways into believing something different other than what you are telling yourself. Because if you keep telling yourself, I am dumb, I am dumb, I'm dumb, I'm too dumb to do this, what's your brain suddenly going to believe? It's going to start believing that you're dumb. There's also a triangle. There's a thoughts, feelings, actions triangle. Have a look up of that thoughts, feelings, actions triangle. And that's all about teaching the concept of changing negative patterns of thought. So you have your thoughts up here, you have your feelings, and then you have your behaviors or your actions. So when you start thinking, I am smart, I like a challenge, and you start feeling a bit like you'll not feel it initially, but if you keep telling yourself, you might feel it, and then it turns into an action. So roundabout way of saying that thoughts aren't facts, but then you can also use your thoughts to change thinking patterns too. Okay, this is a big one for me. You can't change people. You need to accept people how they are to you right now. And you can't be hoping and thinking that you can't be obsessed with the idea of a fantasy of them. Oftentimes in relationships, people get given maybe 4 good experiences and 10 bad experiences. And they hang on to those 4 experiences and they sort of create this narrative of this person is like this, and they minimize the bad aspects. And to me, going back to the you can't change people, if you're having experiences with someone that doesn't feel right for you, then you need to know that asking someone to change can only do so much. They need to want to change themselves. Sometimes people will put in a boundary and they'll say, no, I'm not changing. I want to be this way. Or they won't even, you'll be stonewalled. Some people don't want to talk. They want to cut you out. You kind of have to accept that, because what else are you going to do? If you don't accept and you harbor resentment, you harbor anger, you harbor sadness, and there's a difference between, mulling on that, commiserating and drowning in your own misery versus, having that moment and accepting it and moving forward. And a lot of people, this is where like the victimization mindset comes in, where they constantly are bringing up and bringing into their lives the fact that this really hard thing has happened to them. And it's not to belittle that experience. It's because, harboring resentment, sadness won't serve you in the long run. So roundabout way of saying, you need to accept that what you have is what is. And this is something that I really struggle with. I really have a lot of discontentment about different parts in my life, and I struggle to sort of take it for how it is. And I think gratitude can help as well. If you have things that are going well in your life, you can kind of redirect your brain's attention towards those things. But acceptance is the biggest thing that I've been dealing with and just sort of trying to come to terms with. Talking it out with a therapist has been very, very useful. You need to be aware that you can't change people. People have to want to change. And you can't get too worked up over someone living their life a way that you wouldn't live their life, because you're you. All you can do is control your own behavior. You can control your own reactions to the situation, but you can't control how they're going to be. Another one, don't assume. You can't assume that somebody is feeling a certain way because they might not be. You can't assume someone's reaction. So say someone has blown you off. They've flaked on you. You had something organized and they've said, I can't do today, I'm sorry. And you assume maybe, they don't like me, they don't want to see me. When in reality, they're overwhelmed at work and family life and they just need a night to themselves. So without that communication and that line of connection to what is actually going on, you can't come up with this narrative that's probably going to be feeding something that you already think. Maybe you're self-conscious about people excluding you, you're self-conscious about people liking you, and so your brain's going to say, this is an example of that. And it's going to run with that, and it's going to run with that far, because we love to get agitated and to feel like a sense of injustice towards ourselves. By communicating with that person, we're taking away the mystery of what is actually happening in this interaction. And then it might not actually be a bad situation for yourself. It might be totally neutral and fine. And you need to ask the person, or they need to communicate to you what is actually going on. Next, self-awareness is the first step to everything. If you're going to be an asshole, at least know you're being an asshole. There's nothing worse than an asshole who doesn't realize they're being an asshole. That sounds like kind of a joke, and I don't really mean you can do whatever you want as long as you know what you're doing. But the first step to changing a behavior is to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it's hurting someone else perhaps, and how you can be better. So self-awareness, for example, I know, and I've been recognizing sometimes when I'm on my way home and I can sense that something has been bothering me, and I say to myself, okay, what is bothering me? And say it's someone cut me off when I was driving, or someone was rude to me. I can use that self-awareness to say, I am not in a good mood right now. When I get home and I am around my family, I can either distance myself or tell people I'm in a bad mood because of this. So by being able to identify what's going on in our brains and in our bodies, that self-awareness can be used to sort of protect those around us and protect ourselves from feeling unnecessarily angry, and we can kind of work through that in ourselves. Another example, I know that I need to be reaching out to my friends more. I know that I tend to not be a very good friend, and I don't tend to make the effort with my friends. So I am self-aware of that, and that's great. And now I need to do the action. But at least I'm not having friends sort of be confused at my behavior. I'm self-aware, I'm communicating to them the self-awareness and the knowledge that I've learnt, and they can then feel better informed on how it's going to make them feel as well. And lucky last, breathing techniques. My therapist, we would often, we'd start, this was actually the counsellor, we would start and she would do a little breathing technique with me. And she would sort of show me different ones so that I could see what I liked, what I didn't like. And the breathing techniques would just teach me a new skill. I feel like meditation and breathing is something that people don't really get taught. In high school, we did a bit of mindfulness, but I think because it was my high school that had taught us that, we were kind of like, ew, it's school. We don't want to do mindfulness. But mindfulness is amazing. I love meditations. I've been going to bed for the last couple weeks. I go through phases, but I've been going to bed with a meditation on. If anyone needs an app recommendation, Insight Timer is amazing. And that's what I use to meditate and to breathe. So they have 5-minute short burst classes, sessions, or there's meditation sessions. But breathing, a really simple basic one that I learnt when I went on a overseas trip with a school group that I learnt from my therapist is breathe in for 7, out for 11. And there's something to do with the longer outward breath that relaxes you, and maybe do that 10-15 times. You go in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I would just say that in my head and do it. And I'm someone who has plane anxiety and stuff, so that really helps in that sense. And just breathing really, when you're feeling panicky, taking a big breath just really helps to regulate your heartbeat and your blood pressure. So yes, breathing techniques. So that was the things that I have learnt in therapy. What I hope you take away from this video is a little bit of knowledge about yourself, a little bit of maybe a push to see a therapist, because therapy is great and everyone should try it. I don't really understand when people say it's not for them. I think it's because it's not the right time, or it's not the right person. I think therapy is good for everyone. Everyone should talk about their emotions. Everyone has something to say that they need to unpack, because we've all been through things that we need to unpack. So anyway, that was the video today. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.